that's, it's really interesting. I think that we talk a lot about content and the over-reliance on content. And I think that what a good GE course does is to really balance the content element with the active learning element. And basically, I think another kind of paradox of a good GE course is that a general education course really is about lifelong learning. It's not about disciplinary development. You tend to think, okay, well, a course in your major is really about lifelong learning. But in many cases, it's not, because your career may change and your interests may change and your opportunities may change over time. So when you're an electrical engineer and you learn something very specific about electrical engineering, you may get to apply it. It may be very valuable to you. Disciplinary learning is always very valuable and very focused. I think that a general education course really speaks to people about what they can use in subjects that they may not be developing disciplinary expertise in. So, for instance, the course that PolyU developed on leadership is a very valuable general education course for students, because they'll leave there with some understanding of theories of leadership. They will have practiced those theories. They will have seen the application to their daily life. And those kinds of from theory to practice to application processes, I think, are really a valuable part of general education. When I taught the Shakespeare course at PolyU, one of the things that I told my students from the very first day is that I wanted them to become consumers of Shakespeare, that I wanted them to say in 5 years when a production of Hamlet came to Hong Kong, oh gee, I'd like to see that. That's lifelong learning. So I think that kind of summarizes a good general education. Right.
September.
My mantra at PolyU has been 2012 isn't the end, it's just the beginning. The curtain goes up. That's an interesting question, and this is kind of passing the buck, but something that the Fulbrighters next year should really start to talk about, and that is assessment. There's not a really heavy conversation about assessment right now. I think I think Daniel Scheck in the leadership course has planned how he's going to assess that course. But assessment of the whole package, I think, is really not out there yet.
It's a program assessment. You're not talking about individual students.
No. I'm not talking. No, yes, right. They use assessment here somewhat differently than we use it there. Right. I'm talking about institutional assessment. Is this program, is general education, what are its wins, what are its weaknesses? Right. How are we going to go back in and correct some of those weaknesses?
Even if there's a fine tuning, there's a loop, but there needs to be some information that comes back. And,
right, yeah.
Because there's so many, as you say, wheels and moving parts.
Right.
Lots of things could go wrong, but they may be superficial. Maybe,
right.
But sort of what really at base, how well are the institutions doing in getting to some, was there attributes? Or,
right.
So
they really
what would you recommend as putting that assessment system in place?
They need to, I think, work. And this is something I think the Hong Kong institutions do really well, and that's that focus on outcomes. And individual faculty struggle with it, but the fact that they have graduate attributes and that they seek to, graduate students with those attributes, I think that one of the issues is going to be, how do we determine that we have graduated students with those attributes? What are we going to use? And how do we determine the effect of general education? How do we know that the combination of writing and first-year seminar and leadership is leading to gains in student learning? I think that the outcome, the outcomes are there, but they're going to have to figure out what are the instrumentalities to to determine whether those outcomes are actually happening or not.
What's producing what
Yeah,
kind of outcome?
right, exactly.
On a scale that, I mean, like, we know individuals get it, but when
Yeah.
we're talking about thousands of students.
Right. And, you know, we're talking on Saturday when we do our FCE workshop, we're going to be talking about, Jackie and I are going to be talking about outcome-based assessment, but I'm really going to be focusing on the NESI and using the...
What is that?
See, I can't do it right. National Survey of Student Engagement. Anyway,
Yeah, right,
yes,
right,
the
right,
NESI. And, yeah, National Survey of Student Engagement. Sorry, I just blocked on that.
So you think that might be a good tool?
I think it would be an excellent tool. I think that it not only it focuses on student experience, so it's not a direct measure of student learning. It's definitely an indirect measure of student learning. If you combine it with something like the collegiate learning assessment, which I don't know, I know the NESI is being worked on to develop a NESI for China. CLA, I don't know anything about its usage in Asia. We use it at College of Charleston. It is the assessment tool that was used in the study that produced the kind of, I guess, the latest scandal in higher education, the academically adrift.
Oh, yes.
Right. And what those kinds of large-scale assessments, they're going to need to be put in place. And then programmatic assessments need to fall in place too, so that, for instance, the writing intensive program needs an assessment that works for them. And the reason that they need it is they need to celebrate wins. They're going to have some wins, and they need to be able to identify them and get them out there, you know, in the 30-second TV spot, you know, or whatever. I think Congress will be good at this, you know, but they need to have a way of identifying what they're succeeding at, you know. So that's the kind of the next bridge to cross, I think.